Day 8 of lockdown. I haven't left my house in 8 days. I've got something special for you guys today. Hi, I'm Ossie from 3 Monkey Solderless, home of the world's greatest solderless cables for your pedalboard applications, both audio and DC. I wouldn't let that guy in your house. So what have we got going today? I figured we'd keep the ball rolling today on the Mototeddy. Okay, so we've got the next Mototeddy here, the one from the last video. Apparently somebody took it, so I got another one here. And it's just like all the other ones. And what are we going to do with it today? We're going to build something around this thing. What the hell is that? All right, what is this thing? All right, so what is this thing? This thing is a little stereo, 2 6v6, 2 preamp, 2 output transformer, 1 power transformer. Power amp has 2 phase inverters in there, right? And 2 power tubes, 2 power sections. It has a DC breakout that can be supplied by batteries for ultra quiet. These guys right here, which are Surefire 123A. What are they called again? Yeah, 123As, which have just a gobsmacked amount of current in there. We've got also they're daisy chains, so we can plug in a power supply into one of these, and then we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outputs for it. So this is the power amp thingy, and where is that going to go? I guess it might go in this. So this is a pedal board, as you can see, kind of a homemade guy with some cool finish on it, a little bit of a dog hair finish, and it has a cutout here for our unit. So we're going to go ahead and build this thing up today, and it's going to be an analog sort of deal right now, right? I know we've been doing a lot with the IR pedals and going direct into the camera from, you know, line ins, but we're going to be using these camera mics on this Zoom camera for the time being, and we're going to be using this power amp, and we're going to be using some Teely boxes with maybe some Altec speakers in it, or maybe Celestians, and we're going to try out some different things and see what sounds really cool. So stick around. I'm going to show you how I like to build this pedal board, and then we're going to go ahead and test drive it around the block. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so it begins. We're down here again in the workspace, and we have our pedal board here that we made. This is plywood basically, right? And plywood has all this interesting sort of grain in it, very heavy, thick grain. And the way that you do a finish like this basically is you would first lay down, paint the thing in black, right? You spray paint and just spray the whole thing down in black. Then you would spray it in blue or another color. And then you would get sandpaper and just basically sand off the blue and off the very top, right? And since the green is sunken, obviously the blue stays in the grain, and you end up with this sort of like accentuated grain pattern. And then I usually put like a coat of wax on it and then buff it up a little bit so it gets a little bit of a shine to it, and then relic it a little bit so it has a little bit of that Eastern kind of feel to it, like something you may have gotten in Thailand or Bombay or something like that. That's kind of cool. And you know, if you wanted something like Bombay-ish, maybe you could use like a Bombay mahogany and black, or red and blue, you know, a blue background with the mahogany. There's a lot of cool colors. Well, anyway, enough with that baloney. Let's start building this thing. So we've got our little cutout here, right? And the board, I should show you, you know, it's at an angle. It has a bit of a raise to it, so it pitches back at you, which is good. Allows you to sort of see what's going on. It's thick. It has rubber feet on it. It's really nice. So we've got this cutout here, and we're kind of like, well, what are we going to do with this cutout, right? We already know, sort of. I'm going to move it better into frame. That is for our big unit here, right? The big unit, which, as we showed before upstairs, is a stereo power amp that I built in a tweed chassis. You've got your 2 volume controls, 2 6v6s, 2 ECC 83s, 2 output transformers, 1 power transformer, power switch, jewel indicator lamp. On this side that's facing the board, you have your line ins for left and right, and you have a breakout of DC connections right here, 2.1 millimeter DC ports for running your pedals on. On the interior, there's the option to use batteries to run all your pedals, and like I was talking about, I'm using these lithium 123As, which are very high current, and they'll supply, you know, a lot of different pedals. You know, when you're talking about, you know, running, you can run them in series, parallel series, however you're looking for, to get the voltage and multiply your amperage, and you can get thousands of amps out of you know, just one of these milliamps, rather, not thousands of amps, thousands of milliamps. That'd be funny. 10,000 amps out of this one battery. Don't touch it. Yeah, so you can either run on batteries, or you could daisy chain in an AC or to DC converter, like a one shot or one spot, or whatever that's called, and then run out and use your remaining all in sort of a Christmas tree series. So we have also two on the back of this. This is battery versus not battery, your fuse, your power cord, and left and right outputs for your speakers. So what we're going to first do is we're going to mount this into the pedal board, right? So we got that in place. We're going to take out some of these screws here. They're sort of pan head screws. I don't know if you can get a good look at those. You've seen them in our videos before, my videos before. Loaded into our drill here. And we're just going to go ahead and screw through these pre-drilled holes. There we go. And we're going to secure this chassis down onto the pedal board itself. Now this is kind of a cool concept, I think, too, for those guys that you know, are looking to have everything that they've got, everything that they want on their board, and not carry around a huge amount of stuff. This obviously is not quite as convenient as an IR pedal that you can sort of set up, that we've talked about in the other videos, where you could just go through the front of the house, so to speak, front of house, and run a line out to there, and you only got to carry your pedal board when you do a gig, and that pedal board can be pretty small. This one's analog for you analog guys that don't like the IR pedals, but still want something cool for a smaller gig. You know, you've got single-ended 6v6s for putting out a few watts, but a few watts is more than you need to deafen most people at a coffee shop or a bar. You probably couldn't run this all the way up in a gig setting, or you'd probably get yelled at. So this is kind of cool too. You can carry the pedal board in, and a couple of speaker cabs, or one speaker cab, depending on whether you want to run it stereo or mono, but we're going to do stereo. Some 112s, you know, and put those up, and then you got yourself a killer stereo rig, right? All right, so now I guess the next thing to show you would be how are we going to power these receptacles that are on the back here. You can sort of see how, I'll tilt this up, you can see how they sit above the plane of the board for plugging into, right? Line in, and your DCs. I think for this we're not going to go battery. We're going to go with a wall wart, but one that's similar to something like a one spot, but it's not a one spot. It's a power roll. All right, and I got this from CE Distribution. They have a lot of amplifier parts and do-it-yourself gear and speakers and tubes, and they're out in Tempe, Arizona. I've done business with them forever, since the 90s probably, and when they were just antique electronic supply, I think. They're still that too. So this is the Godlike Power Roll. So we're going to open it up out of this here clamshell, and we're going to pull out the unit. Now, let's see if it has a spec on here. All right, so we have 2,000 milliamps provided by this unit, and it's very similar footprint to a one spot, right? That's kind of cool. So this should pedal, I think, what we're going to use. I don't think we're going to be running more than 2,000 milliamps. Now, if you're running all, you know, let's say even tides, or running a bunch of, let's say, you know, the Strymons that are very power hungry, you might not get away with it. You might have to go with a bigger supply, but that's okay. So the concept here basically is to take your one port, right, your one output from your Godlike Power Roll, and just plug it into the first unit, right, the first port here. And then since these are all run basically in series, or excuse me, in parallel, you've got your voltage 9 volts everywhere. So we have enough to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pedals. Five pedals. All right, so that's cool. So we'll tuck this aside here. We can kind of put this down here, get it out of the way. You could probably even, you know, maybe chop this and run it into the unit itself, into this box here to make it a little cleaner. But we're going to run it this way, since for super silent, you know, sort of activation, we can go to batteries as well. All right, so let's go on to the next step. Sip of the purple drink. Next step is going to be deciding what pedals we want to put on the board. So I was thinking about, well, we're going to be basing it around the Mototeddy, right? So I've got the Mototeddy, okay? So the Mototeddy is going to, let's say we put the Mototeddy here, just to start, because it's the brain, right? So we're going to want some pre-Mototeddy and some post-Mototeddy. And maybe we'll do something like, I don't know, what would be an interesting thing? You know what? Let's try to get Randy's tone, right? For the Blizzard sort of deal. And diary, that kind of thing. So we could use the Mototeddy. Let's see what other pedals we would need. I've already sort of thought this through a tiny bit. I don't have all the right stuff, but we're going to try to get as close as we can with what we got. So we'll put in a wah pedal, right? We got ourselves a wah pedal. We need one of those. So we'll put that over here sort of in the corner, right? It's a little out of frame, but you can see it there. So that'll be our entrance point, right? We may put a buffer, who knows? But right now, I don't think so. So we've got that. We're going to want to drive maybe. What did Randy use? Randy used an MXR Distortion Plus, but we're going to use an Super Overdrive SD1, which is pretty damn close to a MXR Distortion Plus. It's a very simple circuit. I believe, now correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I didn't look at the schematic. I'm just going off of memory. I do believe it's just a single op amp with some clipper diodes in the negative feedback loop around the op amp, which is basically the principle that the MXR works on. There might be some small variances in, let's say, what the capacitors are surrounding that IC, and input and output might have a slightly different tone, but we're not going to worry about that too much right now. We're just going to see how it works out. So we got our Super Overdrive, so we'll go, I wonder which way would be better, whether we should put the wah before or after. Well, we'll do what Hendrix did, or maybe did. We'll go wah pedal, Super Overdrive. We should put an EQ pedal in here, but all my EQ pedals right now are being used. We'd want to get a good mid sort of V boost out of it. So we'll reserve a space here, let's say, for an EQ, and maybe we'll go try our luck at Guitar Center and see if somebody dumped an EQ, an MXR 10 band on there. But you know what I do have? Oh, I do have an EQ we can use, but it's AC powered, and it's an MXR EQ. So 10 band as well. So we'll grab that in a second. So we'll put that here. So we'll have the Mototeddy's Vox Super Overdrive. Then we'll put the EQ pedal. Then we'll go into the Jose. Out of the Jose, we need to split it stereo, right? That's the next thing to do. So to do that, we're going to use this here stereo chorus, this Arion unit, which is pretty cool. A lot of guys have used these over the years, and Arion was sort of like the cheap pedal when I was a kid growing up as a teenager, and I had a few Arion pedals because they were pretty cheap. I missed the delay. The analog delay was really cool. It had this sort of like really lo-fi slap on it, more percussive than anything, and I really liked the sound of it. And in fact, when I was in college, I acquired a Korg unit, like an SDD 3000 rack mount, and when I plugged it in, I didn't like it. I liked the Arion better. I was like, this thing is way too pristine. But I traded the Arion for that SM57 that's upstairs in the studio to one of my sister's boyfriends who was in a band. So that's gone. So anyway, enough of my rambling. Stereo chorus next. Then we're going to need Randy, the thing about Randy's recorded tone, let's say, is that they double, triple, quadruple tracked him for everything, right? And he was an extraordinarily gifted guitar player that could do that sort of a thing with very complicated lines and allow it to kind of, not make a hash out of the whole thing. He was so consistent in his takes that they were able to multi-track him. Now, to do that, we've had this pedal on the rack before. We're going to use this TC Mimic, which is a doubler, right? So it allows you 1 dub, 2 dubs, 3 dubs. Has a tightness here for how close together your sort of doubling is or tripling is, how much of it you want, and how much dry. And it is stereo, so we're going to use that. So we'll go, let's say, let's do this. Put it here, right? So it'll come in the output of the Jose into the stereo chorus. The stereo chorus will go out left and right into the Mimic, right? So we'll have that there. And then we need some reverb. So we'll use this guy here, which we've had for a while. This is an Electro-Harmonix Cathedral. So we got Grail Spring, Accu-Spring, Hall, Room, Plate, Reverse, Grail Flurb, Echo. We'll probably end up in Hall or Room. Somewhere in there. Probably Room, I'm going to guess. Has a lot of different cool things on here too, which are great for dialing in the sound. The reverb time, the damping of it, for instance on a Plate, if it's too ringy, you kind of dampen it and it brings down the high frequencies and gives you a warmer sort of tone to it. It's got the feedback. We're going to see what that exactly does. I'm guessing that's how long it lasts, or whether it degenerates in some sort of bizarre fashion, depending on whether it's an oscillator or not. I don't know. And pre-delay, very important, right? So that's the amount of time it lags behind the signal. The reverb lags behind the signal. So it's kind of like, let's say this, pre-delay, reverb, heavy pre-delay would be like, bow, bow, and short pre-delays would be like, bow, bow. So it's that gap between when you hear the note and the delay blooms out. And then we've obviously got the mode, which just selects from these guys. So we'll put that, let's say here, okay? Maybe like this, upside down, because that's the input and that's the output. And these are our line ins. So, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Hang on a second and let me grab that EQ pedal and let's see how it all works out here. So hang on a second. Well, while I was looking for that, we got this guy here too, which is a little, it's actually a loop, but it has a buffer in it. So we can use this, right? We got our inputs and outputs. So we can put this here, right? So we can put the buffer before the wah pedal, get everything nice and low impedance as it goes through our system. I mean, the Super Overdrive has a buffer in it. Case closed. We're putting the Super Overdrive before the wah pedal. Okay, we're gonna try that first because the Boss pedals have buffers in them, so that should work out great. Why put 2 buffers in there, right? We don't need to. And we got the cool EQ right here, right? So this is actually an MXR twin 10-band, right? So you got 2 of the 10-band circuits in here. This one's from the 70s. It's or 80s probably. It's an old one. I've modified it a bit. It was originally, I think, for basically like tape consoles and things. So it had RCAs instead of 1/4 inches. It had a bunch of different little baloney things that changed how the unit functioned internally. So I took all that out and basically put in some 1/4 inch jacks so it could work with a guitar rig. So we could just stick that here, right? So we could put the Mototeddy up like that. We could put the EQ unit here. We could put the stereo chorus. We got that. We got the wah here. We got the Super Overdrive. We could even probably put that like there. All right. Now let's leave it here so we can use it. All right. Then we got the Cathedral, and we go out into the line in left and right. Out of that and into our 112 speaker cabinets. All right. So I think we have our basic layout together. All right, we're going to tuck that down like that. Keep it out of the way. That's good. We've got our basic layout together. So now we want to start basically wiring things, right? So we're first securing things down to the board. A lot of this stuff I've used before on board, so it has my little solder tab attachment system where I put on, if you can see there, these are basically like ground lugs, solder lugs that you can get from Mauser or whatever, or CE, different places, and they're used for attaching wires to chassis, right? But you can also use them for take out the screws that hold the back cover plate on and put them on the pedals themselves, and then you can screw your pedals down to the board and there's no need for Velcro, right? So we're probably going to do that. We're going to screw those down. On the wah pedal, you could do the same thing. It has feet screws. You could put those on. I've also modified the wah pedal to run off of a DC port, or a DC rather, system. So that's good, no battery. The Arion we're going to have to attach the little guys to, no problem there. The Mototeddy will attach those little guys to as well. The Cathedral, I think it already has it. The TC, right? The TC is a problem because the TC stuff, they don't have screws holding this thing on. It's this big goofy screw in the middle. So what are we going to do? Well, what I'm going to do is, usually I would Velcro it, but I'm telling you, I hate Velcro. And especially I don't want to put Velcro on this board because when I peel it off, it's going to take my finish off, my paint off. So I'm going to pull off this Velcro first, number one. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Oh, God. The Velcro always sticks good to the pedal. It never sticks to the board. At least my board. All right, so we got this piece off. Good Lord, that was tough. Now it's stuck to my fingers. Now it's stuck to my shoe. This is great. Okay, so we're peeling off this other piece of Velcro here. All right, using our pliers. Oh, God. Ah, there we are. God, this is sticky. Why doesn't it stick to the board that well? All right, so we have a little residue to scrape off. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to epoxy these guys on here. Okay? See how this can go like that, right? And I got two of them that I made, and this is made out of phenolic board material that I would make circuit cards out of. And then from the top, you got little ears now, right, with holes that you can use to screw the pedal down. And when you want to get in it again, it leaves you access to the main screw to take the cover on and off. So this should work out just fine, right? And we'll just put it here. And then we can screw through our pre-drilled holes, and it is stuck there. Yeah, so that's pretty good. Now, we're going to be using, as I said, we're going to be using these guys, right? Which is the 3 Monkeys solderless connectors. And if you're watching this, we're actually doing a sale at the store right now, 25% off of everything. So go check that stuff out. It's a good time to get it. And while we're stuck here at home, you can sort of build your pedal, and we'll help you along, right? So we got our connectors, which are really low profile, right? Like when you stick this guy in here, I mean, look how small that is, right? It's got the, let me get in there. It's got the little cutout for the wire to kind of bend down to the ground or whatever way you want to do it. We could actually make this smaller, but then you can't hold it. So that's as small as you want it. So that's the audio one, and we've got obviously the little DC guys too here. And if you're unfamiliar with this stuff, it's really cool because the way you make it, and we're going to be making this board, is you just screw this unit on. Screw the ends onto our cable, right? You cut the cable clean. You don't strip it. You don't do anything like that. Just cut it clean, screw the end on, and you're done, right? And it's on there. We got all kinds of colors. We got the red, we got the yellow, we got black, we got green. Yeah, so you can kind of, decide what you want, what color. So I think for this, I think we're going to use yellow, right? We're going to use a lot of yellow. I like yellow for this. Yellow, blue, with a blue background, maybe a little black. But I think that's what we're going to do. Looking pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this guy on, right? And then we'll be back to kind of fasten everything down. So I think that's good for right now. We're going to continue this project, as I've said, for the next couple of days, trying all kinds of things. So if you like it, stick around, something to do while we're all at home, and stay safe. So thanks for watching.